Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1. Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmana Krishna Punaryogam Cha Shansasi Yachreya Etarekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?
Text 2. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Sannyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreshasa Karma Ubhau Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate.
The personality of God had replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work.
Text 3. Geya Sah Nitya Sannyasi Yona Dreshti Na Kankshati Nirdvando Hi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchyate.
One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna.
Text 5. Yat Sankhe Prapyate Sthanam Tatyoge Gamyate Ekam Sankyam Cha Yogam Cha Yah Pashyati Sapashyati.
Prabhu, we have missed the verse 4.
Oh, of course, because it is right at the bottom.
Sorry.
Text 4. Sankhya Yogo Prathak Bala Pravadanti Na Pandita Ekam Pyasistha Sambhyu Samyag Ubhayora Vindate Phalam.
Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both.
Text 5. Yat Sankhye Prapyate Sthanam Tadyogairapi Gamyate Ekam Sankyam Cha Yogam Cha Yah Pashyati Sa Pashyati.
One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are.
Text 6. Sanyasastu Mahabaho Dukham Aptum Yogatah Yoga Yukto Munir Brahma Nachirena Adhigachati.
Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay.
Text 7. Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Jitendriya Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Kurvannapi Nalipyate.
One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled.
Text 8 and text 9. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyet tattvavit Pashyan Shranvam Sprashan Jigran Asnan gachan swapan swashan pralapan visrajan grahanna unmishan nimisan api indriyani indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharyana.
A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them.
Text 10. Brahmani adhyaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yah lipyate na sa papena padma patram mivambhasa.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results onto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water.
Text 11. Kayena mansa buddhaya kevalair indriyairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye.
The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification.
Text 12. Yuktah karam phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti nashtikim ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibhadyate.
The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
Text 13. Sarvakarmani mansa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navdvare pure dehi naiva kurvan karyana.
When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Text 14. Na kartatvam na karmani lokasya srujati prabhu na karma phal sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate.
The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Text 15. Na datte kasya chit papam na chaiva sukritam vibhu ajnanena vrattam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavah.
Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
Text 16. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam yesham nashitmatmanah tesham aditya vajnanam prakashayati tatparam.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
Text 17. Tad buddhayas tat atmanas tannishthas tat parayanah gachanti apnur vrattim jnana niradhuta kalmashah.
When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, Then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
Text 18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha.
The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast.
Text 19. Ihaiva terjitaha sargo yesham same sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te sthita.
Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the condition of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
Text 20. Na prahashyat priyam prapya no dvijet prapya cha priyam sthira buddhir asamudho brahma vidya brahmani sthitaha.
A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence.
Text 21. Brahma sparsheshva sattatma vindatyatmani yat sukham sah brahma yoga yuktama sukham akshasyam ashnute.
Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
Text 22. Yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukhayo naya evate adhyantavantah kaunteya nate shuram te buddha.
An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
Text 23. Shaknoti haivaya sodhum prakya sharira vimokshanat kam krodha bhavam vegam sayukta sa sukhi naraha.
Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world.
Text 24. Yo antah sukho antararamas tatantar jyotir evaya sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto adigacchati.
One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme.
Text 25. Labhante brahma nirvanam brahma nirvanam mrashaya sheen kalmashaha chinna dvaida yatatmanah sarva bhuta hite rataha.
Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme.
Text 26. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yat chetasam abhito brahma nirvanam Vartate viditatmanam.
Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self realized, self disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
Text 27 and text 28. Isparashana kratva bahir bahyamash chakshusha chaivantare bhuvo pranapano samo kratva nasa bhayantar charinam yatendriya mano buddhir munir moksha parayanaha vigattecha bhaya krodho ya sada mukta eva saha.
Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated.
Text 29. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram sahardam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shanti vrachati.
A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Sandeep Prabhu and Rita Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So the verse for today is verse number 17 of chapter 5 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we will recite this verse and then we'll read the translation and purport. So, Tad buddhayas tat atmanas tan nishthas tat parayanaha gachanti apunar avrittam jnana nirdhut kalmashaha tad buddhayas tat atmanas tan nishthas tat parayanaha gachanti apunar avrittam jnana nirdhut kalmashaha tad buddhyas tat atmanas tad nishthas tat parayanaha gachanti punarravrittam jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha tad buddhyaha. Those whose intelligence is always in the Supreme. Tat atmanaha. Those whose minds are always in the Supreme. Tat nishthaha. Those whose faith is only meant for the Supreme. Tat parayanaha, who have completely taken shelter of him. Gachanti, go, apunaha avritam, to liberation. Gyan, by knowledge. Nirdhuta, cleansed. Kalmashaha, misgivings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Purport: the Supreme Transcendental Truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature Paratattva means the supreme reality who is understood by the knowers of the supreme as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagwan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. Lord says, Matta paratram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Brahmanohi, Brahmanohi pratisthaham. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the supreme reality. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness, is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in a perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneous identity, and individuality in Krishna, and equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Om Jnanam Timrandasya Jnananjana Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenbandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada ki jai. So the verse once more. Tad buddhya tad atmanas tad nishtas tad parayanaha gachanti punarravrittam jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings to complete knowledge and then proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So this chapter is entitled as Karma Yoga. But what kind of Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So that's the title of this chapter. And in this chapter, Arjun has asked a question that Krishna, on one side, you're saying to renounce the work. And then now you're saying you also work, but you work in devotion, you know. So Nishkam Karma Yoga, that is what Krishna is, Arjun is trying to clear the doubt here. That shall I renounce the work? Which means that I give up the work completely, which means I give up the activity of my senses with the sense objects? Or Krishna, are you saying that should I work with my senses? And then how do I work in devotion? So Krishna is trying to put these things together for Arjun. And he's saying that you work in devotion is far more superior than the renunciation of work. You know, tyag is not even recommended by Krishna. Actually, he's saying that tyag does not mean renunciation of work. Rather, tyag means renunciation of the fruits of the work. But that means you will have to work. Then how otherwise the fruits will come? So Krishna is putting forward this argument that Tyag in itself is nothing, because there is nothing that belongs to you. You're in a false conception that everything belongs to me, and you're also in the false conception that if you work hard, then you'll get some kind of result, and that result is the onus of the result is up to you. So Krishna is denying these uh, illusory understanding of Arjun, saying that neither this, neither that you are work is also not in your hand, nor the fruits of the work are in your hand. And he's giving a bigger picture to Arjun that everything is happening by the modes of material nature. The work is happening by modes of material nature. This was the verse number 15. Or, yeah, verse number 14. Embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Prakriti kriya marani, gune karmani sarvacha, ahankar vimurātma, kartaham iti manyata. Krishna has already declared somewhere in Bhagavad Gita again, he is going to declare this, that modes of nature are working. And he's also saying somewhere, Purusha prakriti stoi bhungte prakriti jangunan karanam gun sangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. Because this soul is in touch with these modes of nature, karanam gun sangasya, because he is in this attachment of the modes, karanam gun sangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. He's taking birth after birth after birth. So there's nothing in control of living entity. But then one can say that why is it you're saying that there is nothing in control of living entity? Is a living entity a log of wood, which is just placed in the samsara, in the amongst the material modes of nature? Everything is happening on its own accord. Krishna is saying no, that is also not true. Krishna is saying that yes, there is a minute independence that living entity has. In that independence, however, there's a full dependency on the supreme soul, super soul, on the super soul and the material nature. So based on that, the living entity is not the only performer, not the only responsible person. Based on that, Krishna is saying that living entity is not the doer. And if he understands himself the doer, then that is a defect in his thinking. That is the defect, because Krishna is mentioning here, Ishwar Sarva Bhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati. Krishna is mentioning that super soul is seated in the heart of living entity. This super soul is directing the living entity. Brahmya Sarva Bhutani Yatra Yantra Runani Maya. This living entity who is sitting in the um, vehicle, or in the yantra machine. He's seated in the machine of built by this illusory energy. He's seated in that machine. I am also seated, super soul. And there is material nature. Now this material nature is around living entity. Now this material nature is forcing the living entity to have certain kind of faith, certain kind of activities, certain kind of desires. And because living entity whose mind is grouped around the senses is wanting to try to enjoy the fruits of these activities, therefore he is bound into this illusion that he is this body, and the activities that he's doing through his material endeavors, through his senses, he's trying to achieve the results, and he wants to then enjoy those results. So that is how living entity is functioning, thinking that he's the doer. However, he is not the doer, because he does not know that I am sanctioning authority of all his desires, and my energy, which is my material energy, is helping him to achieve what he wants to achieve by my will, by my sanction. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matah gatir Mata smritirgyanam apohanam cha. Hmm? So Krishna is saying, Mata smritirgyanam apohanam cha. It is me who is giving intelligence, who is giving mata smritir, remembrance, mata smritir jnanam, knowledge, apohanam, forgetfulness to the living entity. So Krishna is saying that the soul who is thinking himself to be the doer is under illusion. It does not mean that this doer will is not responsible for his actions. So it is very clear if we look into various statements that Krishna has made in Bhagavad Gita, he's not saying that there is no free will to the living entity. He has the freedom. He has the freedom, but his freedom is very limited to begin with because he's bound by these senses, and he's put in a certain condition. Therefore, he's called conditioned souls. His independence is limited to the extent what will be sanctioned by the material nature as per his past karma. To that extent, he's free to act and get whatever fruits of the past karma is accrued to him will be given to him. He has a freedom, but his freedom is limited. He cannot enjoy permanently. He cannot enjoy unlimitedly. Whereas his desire is there to enjoy unlimitedly. His desire is to there to be situated in a happiness without any distress all the time. But he is unable to achieve this because he's conditioned, because he's thinking that he is this body, and while I am in this body, I am the performer of my activities. This is the defect in the intelligence. Whereas Krishna is saying you are not the performer. It's material energy who is helping you to achieve what you want to achieve. It's the super soul who is guiding uh, you as a wandering soul from one body to another body. Hmm? Those who are not on the path of liberation. In chapter 16, Krishna described what are they doing, what are the kind of desires they have, because these desires are insatiable. They are like ghee in the fire. You go after these desires will burn more. You put more ghee in the fire will burn more. Similarly, you chase the desires. You keep chasing these desires, keep chasing these desires. Try to fulfill them. From one desire will arise multiple more desires. From those multiple more desires will arise many more desires. And there's no end to it. And therefore, a living entity will always be finding himself insatiated, unsatisfied. And whatever fulfillment comes from these desires, the amount of endeavor that he puts into fulfilling these desires is far too high than the amount of result he gets in return, because the returns are very temporary. Not to even talk about philosophical level that one body, one you acquire in this lifetime will not go with you in the next lifetime. Rather, within this lifetime, the amount of endeavor one has to put in to accumulate the fruits of those endeavors is also insurmountable. It's too much of endeavor. So Krishna is saying here, such people believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires, and absorbed in lust and anger. They secure money by illegal means of sense gratification. So, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires. This is like serpents. Desires are compared to serpents. And these desires are forcing one to work very hard. These are impure desires arising from impure mind, impure intelligence. In Canto 11, Avanti Brahman is given an example of Python, which is just opposite. A saintly person is like Python. He's sitting at a place, and whatever he gets, he's satisfied with that. If he doesn't get anything, he remains there. So in that example, Avanti Brahmin is saying that sages, saintly personalities are like that. They're always satisfied with whatever little they get. For example, if they don't get food, they'll just stay fasting. They will not go rush, hunt for food, because they're saintly personalities. And by the providence, by the will of the Lord, there's nobody who's going hungry. Even the elephant is getting fed. So there's no doubt that they'll be not fed. And food definitely comes for their requirement. Similarly, an example of ocean is given. In the ocean, in the rainy season, there's a lot of rivers which are coming and swelling the ocean. At the same time, in the summer season, the ocean is the rivers are dried up, and that water is no more going into the ocean. But ocean in itself remains very peaceful and calm. There's no hankering that, oh, I'm not, there's no lamentation in the summer that I'm not getting water, or there's no overjoyousness in the winter season thinking that, oh, I've got so much water, I'm so happy. No, he stays completely in equanimity in both the situations. Similarly, a saintly person is always like this. He is not too joyous because he understands this joy is temporary, coming from the touch of the objects of senses with the senses. Hence, it is temporary. It is not to be dependent upon. Karma phalam ashritam. They're not dependent upon the fruits of their activities because they know that it's all temporary. It has to go. Similarly, they're not very grieved when the distress comes because they also understand that distress is coming from my past life activities. And just like there is a day after the night, similarly, this distress will also go away. So what do? They don't act against that distress. They simply tolerate it. That's how they react with the material nature. Whereas the person who is very fulfilled with desires, uh, they go on fulfilling their desires and attaining repeated birth among the species of demoniac life. Krishna is saying that. This is chapter 16, where he's describing the difference between a demoniac and a saintly personality. He's saying, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Arjun was asking, Krishna, what will happen to these people who've got so many desires and they keep on going after those desires instead of coming to you? Will they have any hope, Krishna? You are all powerful. You are so mighty. You can at least bring them to you. Krishna is saying, no, Arjun, I cannot bring them to me. They can never approach to me. They sink down to the most abominable types of existence. Krishna said, why not, Krishna? You can just do something about them. Krishna says, I can certainly do, Arjun, but they do not have this desire. And I don't interfere with the desire of living entity. I don't interfere with the desires. So here, Krishna is explaining that it's not possible for even him to upgrade such people who are uh, who are chasing material desires, and such people are defined as demoniac in nature. Demoniac. Therefore, Krishna says one should understand what is the duty and what is not the duty. How would one understand? By the scriptural injunctions. And this is, he's saying this in this particular verse, 1624. By the scriptural injunctions, knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So Krishna is introducing here that one has to, because he's saying, I have made Shastra. The Vedic knowledge is coming from me, and Vedic knowledge purpose is to know me. Vedas Chitarves aham eva vedyo. Vedanta krit ved vid eva cha aham. Krishna is saying that this every whole Vedic knowledge is coming from me, and the purpose of this Vedic knowledge is to know me. And in that Vedic knowledge, there are rules and regulations how to live in this world. If one not follow the rules and regulations and just continue to follow the desires of his mind and impure intelligence, like animals, will eventually go into the animal kingdom by the material nature, because material nature will provide a body which is suitable to fulfill that desire. Srila Prabhupada was saying that you see how many types of miseries exist in this world. And I was just reading, he's saying that as many types of the bodies are there. So every body is designed to give certain kind of misery. It's not designed to give certain kind of happiness. The Kalyam Shashwatam. That's how this material world is designed very much to suffer. Why suffer? Why not? Why is Krishna wanting that to happen for the living entity? Is Krishna responsible for this situation of living entity? Is his material energy responsible for that? Krishna is saying that no, neither I am responsible nor the material nature is responsible. It's the living entity who is responsible for it. Because living entity is knowingly covering himself with the ignorance and not wanting to get the knowledge because he wants to enjoy separately from the God's desire, from the God's kingdom. And therefore, he's having to suffer. He's having to suffer the consequences of those decisions. This is how the material nature is designed. So as soon as the soul descends into the material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance, they start acting upon that soul. We have heard this kama esha krodha esha rajogur samadbhava mahashanu mahapapma vidyena me berenam. As soon as the soul comes in contact with mode of passion, calm, lust arises. Lust, greed, and anger. Krishna said, you get rid of these three things: lust, greed, and anger. You will get purified. So as soon as somebody comes in touch of modes of nature, one develops a certain type of faith. But Krishna in this particular verse is talking about faith here. He's saying one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge. We're talking about intelligence and mind. We're talking about faith now. Now this faith, Krishna is saying there are different types of faith according to the modes that these people are in. And we have jumped up to chapter 17th here, division of faith. Yeah, it says there, man in the mode of goodness, they worship demigods. Those in the mode of passion, they worship demons. And those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. You see, this is the kind of faith that a living entity develops. And why this kind of faith? Because one wants to have fruits of the activities, and one wants to have the ambition to fulfill all these desires all the time. So they will reach out according to their modes, according to that desire. They'll reach out to the demigods. Demigods can fulfill all the kind of desires, fruitive activities. And if they're in mode of passion, they worship the demons. Like that, they also worship ghosts and spirits. But these modes, according to these modes of nature, people are desiring different type of fruitive activities. So Krishna is saying this, without deserving fruitive results, one should perform various kind of sacrifices, penance, and charity with the word tat. So he's giving a solution that whatever activity you do by saying Om Tat Sat. Everything that I have done, the results of this activity is unto your lotus feet, O Lord. And that should be coming from our heart, not just artificially. Like sometimes we offer prasadam. We buy something from the market and we offer in our minds. We say, okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. It's good that we are offering it. And it's also good that perhaps Krishna is taking their offering, but sometimes it's our motive and desires to eat that food, and therefore we're offering. But that's also good. But that's not the highest level of devotion. The highest level of devotion would be that we become mindful of what Krishna wants to taste, and we then offer it with a lot of love and devotion to Krishna. And then reminiscences of that is distributed and is partaken by oneself. So that's why good level. Similarly, it's not that we do certain activities and say Om Tat Sat. No, the idea here Krishna is embedding into us is that you cultivate this nature and habit of offering the result of your work to me. You start with that point, and then like that you stay detached from the fruits of your result. If you stay detached, then you can perhaps move on to the path of liberation. So there are three kinds of knowledge in different modes, and uh, we have spoken about this particular verse, which is text 16 of chapter 18. One who thinks himself the only doer is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are, as we were just talking about. Um, so Krishna here is emphasizing on the point, if you go back to chapter 5, that one has to be a devotee, which means one has to make sure that he's utilizing intelligence, mind, faith, which is the faith that we just discussed, um, and refuge. Refuge means surrender, feeling oneself to be under the shelter of someone. That's taking refuge. No, I'm under your shelter. We find so many refugees. They come from one country to another, and the other country gives shelter to them. So they are taking refuge into another country. We have to take refuge of the Supreme Lord. And how do you take that refuge? How one comes to that point of taking refuge? So Krishna is saying that one can understand me as I am when one performs devotional service unto me and becomes one completely conscious of me by such devotions. Then he can enter into the kingdom of God. And actually, that qualifies one to take refuge or shelter of Krishna, because that attracts mercy of Krishna. Krishna's mercy is so powerful. So Krishna is saying that I'll protect my devotee in all circumstances. They are jnanis, they are yogis, and they are working very, very hard on the path of liberation. Hmm? Yogis, they want to achieve a lot of mystic siddhis, and they thousands and thousands of years they perform so much of austerities. And jnanis, they labor hard to have the knowledge of Brahman. Still, they cannot reach to Krishna because their endeavors are not uh, qualified according to Krishna as being the devotee of Krishna, because they are constantly ignoring the fact that Krishna is a personality who has a capability of exchanging and reciprocating our love and devotion. So Krishna says that I become very obliged to my devotees because they love me. I also love them in return. And as much as they surrender to me, to that extent, I extend my mercy onto them. And he says to Arjun that mercy is so powerful. Arjun, my mercy is so powerful. Arjun says, Krishna, you're partial. Krishna, you're partial. You're not giving your mercy to the jnanis and to the yogis. They are also working very hard to understand the Supreme. And Krishna says, no, my devotees are very special. They are always under my protection because they are always conscious of me, because they understand I am a person. And therefore, um, they take refuge into me. And therefore, I give them mercy, which is so powerful that by that mercy, they can easily come to me. So like that, we see that in this chapter also, Krishna is saying the same thing. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So in this context, I was thinking of an example from Canto 11. And in Canto 11, let me just see what chapter was that. Yeah, chapter 8. There's a story of a prostitute, Pingala. In that story, it is said that there was this particular prostitute, and she was in habit of getting her guests almost every night, because she wasn't that was her only way of earning money, and she hadn't got enough money. So one time she was standing on the road outside of her house, waiting for the guests to come. And so, as she was waiting and she was very anxious to get money, uh, she was thinking, any man who will pass by, oh, this man surely would have a lot of money and he will stop by and he would perhaps enjoy my company and he would give me some money. So, like that, Pingla was standing on her doorway for a long time, and many times uh, people were passing by. So she would again think, oh, maybe this one who is coming is very rich, and he would perhaps stop and he'll enjoy my love and he'll give me lots of money. But then that also didn't happen. Like that, she kept leaning against her door and kept waiting for somebody to come in and fulfill her desires. But somehow the other time passed by and it was midnight and she was very tired and she was very anxious. Her mouth was dry and she went inside uh, her home and she intensely desired money and she became morose and she felt, oh, what shall I do? So she came out again and started looking for the clients. And this way, she was restless, she was very anxious, she was lost. And when she found nobody and the night was almost going, she started to feel very differently in her heart. Suddenly, uh, a ray of detachment, which acted like a sword, came into her heart, cutting the pieces of her material hopes and desires into pieces. This sword of detachment cut all her desires into pieces, and she started to lament and she started to think, oh, what kind of a person I am, bereft of knowledge. And I'm thinking that I am the I can perhaps attract these men and they can enjoy me, and such an illegal and such a inhuman way of earning money. I could not control my mind, and I'm completely fooled by these lusty desires all the time. And I'm hunting for this pleasure from insignificant men. But have I not forgotten that personality of Godhead who has provided everything for everybody? And I have not taken refuge into that personality of Godhead. And like that, he started to think that how she was so foolish and she could never she never turned to the person who can really give her love and happiness and all the prosperity that she requires. So she kept thinking that ignorantly I have been serving these insignificant men who can never satisfy my desires and my real need. And I've been in unhappiness and fear and anxiety and lamentation, illusion all the time, all this time. So suddenly this whole realization came to Pingla. When this realization came to Pingla, she also started to think that I am a soul and I'm living in this body. This body is made of bones, which are forming my spine, and ribs and arms and legs are like the beams and cross beams and pillars of the house. The whole structure, which is full of mucus, blood, stool, which is just covered by skin. 9 doors leading the body are constantly excreting foul substances. From mouth, there is foul substance. From from all other gates, there are these foul substances coming out of my body. I'm so foolish that I've devoted all my life to look after this material body. And then she she felt obliged to serve, to feel devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she started to think that how can I now worship the Supreme Lord? And this way, she became detached from the bondage of the material society, the love and the friendship and everything else, and started to worship Lord with devotion and great devotion. And then she says, from within, this is text 40, which says, which I'll just read, I'm now completely satisfied and I have full faith in the Lord's mercy. Therefore, I'll remain myself with whatever come of its own accord. I shall enjoy life with only the Lord because he's the real source of love and happiness. The intelligence of living entities is stolen away by activities of sense gratification, and thus he falls into the dark well of material existence. Within that well, he is then seized by deadly serpent of time. Who else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead could save the poor living entity from such a hopeless condition? This is what Pingla is saying towards the end of her realization. Therefore, we have to read this verse in that light. Krishna is saying, when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings to complete knowledge. What is that complete knowledge? The complete knowledge is that I am not this body, I am that soul, and I am not the doer. Is the super soul and the material energy who's orchestrating everything around me. And I am like a foolish person running behind the fruits of my activities, whereas the fruits are already accrued by my past activities in the past lives. All I am going to see an illusory effect of the energy. And therefore, such a person becomes detached and starts on the path of liberation. I'll finish my talk here right now. If there are any questions and comments, we can take that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Is there any comment or question? You can write in the chat box if there is any.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances.
Namaste.
When I read this 11th canto long time ago, and when I read the Pingla story, I was thinking that long time ago during Vedic times, Vedic knowledge was given to everybody irrespective of what they were in the society. So it is so much essential that everybody gets this knowledge, and maybe at a point of time they can take maybe 10%, maybe somebody can take 20%, somebody can take 100%. But from the Pingla story, I understood that when everybody is given this knowledge, at some point in their life, they will realize, like Pingla was just a prostitute, she was the lowest in society, but she also knew about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when the right time came, she remembered the knowledge and she was completely dedicated to Lord Hari. She was thinking, I'm wasting my time on all these stupid men. But actually, Lord Hari is my, savior and refuge. And then she completely, so suddenly she remembered. So it is so much essential that everybody is given this knowledge from the very beginning of life. That's what I felt when I read the story.
Nice, Mataji. Thank you. Very good realization. Therefore, Krishna is saying Chaturvarna Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that he has made these 4 varnas and 4 ashrams in the society. And the purpose of that society is to come to the point of God consciousness in whatever varna and ashram one is. Unfortunately, in the age we are living now, the varnashram system is completely destroyed, and therefore the whole idea of cultivating knowledge, spiritual knowledge, it has gone missing. Ideally, one has to be focused on the game, on the aim of life, and be doing their prescribed duties, whatever their duties are, and then be able to realize God, and that's the aim of life. In Vedic culture, three ashrams, they were pursuing this goal: the brahmachari ashram, the vanprastha ashram, and the sannyas ashram. Whereas the grahastha ashram is supposed to be taking care of these 3 ashrams. And grahastha is said to be a communist who would look after everybody. However, in the present age, everybody is working hard just to make a living. And the government is also pushing the agenda of how they can create a economy which is flourishing on the sense gratification, just like in chapter 16 we were reading how Krishna is describing the demonic people are always thinking about how they can create more wealth, how they can create accumulation of all these sense gratificatory objects. So the society at large today is directed by the leaders in that direction, and which is completely bereft of the one and ashram system. Therefore, when Srila Prabhupada was leaving the world, he was saying that I've created brahmanas, I've created the society. Now it is up to you all to carry this work forward and create a one ashram society wherein every living entity will get a chance to come to closer to Krishna, to pursue the path of liberation stage by stage. And therefore, this example, what you're just mentioning, that even the people who were perhaps degraded had the opportunity and they had the knowledge to come back to the spiritual path. So thank you, Mataji. Then there's another uh, Surabhi Mataji is writing, Pranam, nice story. Just an ignorant question. I keep hearing Mata and Prabhu here. Prabhu means God and Mata means mother. If somebody is not comfortable addressing everyone as God and mother, is that okay? I mean, you can say the name, what's G and N. So when Srila Prabhupada has said that we should be seeing all women as as our mothers, and this whole thought is stemming from the fact that Mata doesn't mean somebody who's very old, like in a connotation way in India, people say slightly older people, they say Mataji is coming. But here, Srila Prabhupada is meaning that we say Mataji because we want to see her like mother. Like we shouldn't have uh, Chanakya Pandit, Prabhupada has quoted Chanakya Pandit, that one must not have any source of enjoying mentality when one sees the form of a woman, except for his wife. And therefore, one should be culturally adjusted to call everybody as mother. So many devotees, they call mother, and sometimes they call Mataji. Many times we call Mataji. And Prabhu also, Krishna is seated in everybody's heart, in the heart of a woman body, in the heart of a man body. Therefore, we address that personality, respect that personality, knowing that Supreme Lord is situated in the heart of that person. So we call them Prabhuji. And that doesn't mean that that person himself thinks that he is God. Rather, he thinks himself as a servant of God because God is seated within him. And therefore, the obeisances that a devotee is paying, one does not take it that these obeisances are paid to me. Rather, one takes that these obeisances are being paid to the Supreme Lord seated within me. And therefore, he passes those obeisances to the Lord, to his own spiritual master, like that. So we give that respect and say Prabhuji and Mataji. And this is the system created by our Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and therefore we follow them. And we respect the system of honoring. Otherwise, if somebody is new, there's no harm in calling people by name with that respect. That's okay. But as one understands the purpose behind it, one tends to accept this kind of terminology. But we are not rudimentary or regimentary about it. Whatever one is comfortable, that's fine. There is a question here. What is duality of Krishna? Oh, so I am taking this question as an understanding of God into as Brahman, as super soul, and as person. So Krishna is present in the three forms, or God is present into three forms. Some people worship God as Brahman Jyoti. Some people just worship him as all-pervading super soul who is in everybody, and they see God in everyone. And then the highest and the most advanced stage of perceiving God is in his personal form, where one can worship the Lord in devotion and get reciprocation from the Lord, all kind of Vatsalya Prem, the parental love from God, or can give parental love to God, and Sakhya Ras is there, friendship to God, friendship with God, and like that, lover of God, and so on. So duality of Krishna means this, that Krishna is present as Krishna, and Krishna is also present in other forms that one would like to perceive. So there are three ways that God can be perceived: Prameti, Paramatmeti, and Bhagavaniti Shabdite. So that's how it's defined. I hope I got the question correctly.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you.
On that story, the prison's prostitution rings the darker side of humanity. If they have access to Gita, will it make a difference? Yes. The words of Krishna are immortal, and they are knowledge giving, illuminating. This knowledge is illuminating. It illuminates the heart, the soul. It brings in touch the soul with the spiritual realm. Therefore, this knowledge is beyond jada, beyond matter, which is limited to this material world. And therefore, whoever will get this knowledge will be illuminated in the heart and would like to take the mercy of the Lord and reawaken that relationship with the Lord. In whatever situation one is stuck because of his own karma and modes of nature, one would be able to excel that and come to the level of platform of Brahmabhuta Prasannatma, Nasochati Nakangshati, Samaya Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Labhate Pada. And one would become liberated. At a Brahmabhuta stage, he can come. So it will definitely make a difference in the lives of people. Just like it has made a difference in our lives. Somebody has given this mercy to us. Therefore, we are at least knowing the existence of the Lord and our existence theoretically, and able to pursue that path of bhakti, by pursuing which we have hope that we can come closer to our own original constitutional position. Okay, so these were some of the questions on the chat, which I have just taken. If there are any final comment, otherwise we can just then close this conversation. All right. Vanchakaltarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayavcha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhuji, for
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.